Good morning to you. How are you doing today? Thank you for tuning in to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola, and you are listening to Trends in the Papers. It's the 4th of July, 2023. It might not mean much to us here in this part of the world, but it's a big deal in the United States of America. As you know, 4th of July every year is more or less a celebration of nationhood for the USA. About 82 years since they've been celebrating independence, and like I said, it might not mean much to us here, but we have very strong ties with the US, so it's only reasonable that we mention it. So yeah, 4th of July every year, independence is celebrated in the United States. But for those of you that like to claim that you're from the US, I guess we can say Happy Independence Day to you. Anyways, good morning again. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola once again. Basically, all we do every morning on Trends in the Papers is review the stories that have made it to the front pages of our dailies. We have conversations about them, developing stories, news stories, whatever the case may be. And we don't just talk about them, we also analyze them. And for analysis, we definitely employ the services of FUHAD SAHEED, who talks to us or gives us more information about the stories that we review. FUHAD, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Sage. And how are you doing?
Very well, very well. Thank you. FUHAD, Happy Independence Day to you because you are from the USA.
Well, I'm a true, thoroughbred, patriotic Nigerian. I'm not from the US.
I know, I'm just feeling your legs. Yes. Well, you seem to know a lot about their politics. That's why I made that joke, because you're very, very knowledgeable about, the politics in the US.
That's the most powerful nation in the world.
Right.
So there's no way you want to talk about international politics without, focusing your attention on the most powerful nation in the world. Whatever they do affects everybody.
Right.
US sneezes, the whole world catches cold.
Right. Very true. All right. Well, let's get into today's conversation. The Punch newspaper is the first paper we would be reviewing this morning. The headline reads, "Retired generals set agenda as Tinubu meets service chiefs." Riders to the stories: criminal activities going down. Tinubu picked best hand, says Ribadu. Retired generals ask service chiefs to cooperate, warn against interference. So the story reads, retired generals on Monday set an agenda for the new service chiefs on how they can overcome the security challenges confronting the country. Speaking against the backdrop of the insurgency in the Northeast Banditry and also in the Northwest, as well as the criminal activities and killings across the country, the former military officers admonished the security chiefs to study their predecessors and improve on their weaknesses. And of course, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also advised the service chiefs to work very closely with the National Security Advisor, Nur Ribadu. So this is basically conversations around cooperation. All the security agencies that constitute the security architecture of the country need to work together if we would make any progress whatsoever in combating the insecurity that has bedeviled the country for years and years on end, which we really hope will come to an end soon. So Fuad, do you see strong synergy within the security operatives and also working together with the NSA, and are you quite optimistic that this collaboration that they're calling for might be exactly what we need in terms of tackling insecurity in the country?
Well, as far as our security architecture is concerned, what we have simply done is what I call personnel reform. So basically what we have done is to, appoint new service chiefs who, if you agree with me, are from the same institution. A lot of them have been part of the entire, security architecture to tackle insecurity, banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram insurgency, and all of this. So they are actually people of the system. It's not as if we went outside of the country to go and import machinery.
Yeah.
These security chiefs have been part of the system. In fact, a lot of them are on the last lap of their military career or policing career, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
So they are all from the system. So if we are going to, for me, what runs in my mind now, I saw the president meeting with them. I assume that he was giving them their mandate his mandate, sorry, when was Bado leading the service chiefs to meet with the president. He was a hander for these guys to follow. That was the optics for me, the interpretation of the optics for me. But beyond all of that, say, we need strong institutional reform. Because again, you can change the service team from now to tomorrow, continue to change them as you want. The reality is that, look, if you don't reform the institution, we may not see a different result. Because basically what you're going to be having is to have the same old wine in a new bottle. The taste will not change.
Right.
If you don't decide to brew it differently. So I think that, look, we've done the right thing by, of course, this is almost like a routine. A new president comes in, he appoints new service chiefs. Of course, they begin to make statements, assure Nigerians that things are going to improve. And then we go back to the normal thing where we begin to report insecurity, kidnapping, killings, and all of that. We are hoping that this will be different. We are hoping that, look, at this time, we are going to have some respite when it comes to the level of insecurity in the country. I think Mr. Nuhu Ribadu is celebrating too early. I listened to him saying that, oh, things are getting better, insecurity has reduced in the country. And I'm like, where is he getting his data from? In the last 2 or 3 weeks, there has still been reported cases of killing in Plateau State. Zamfara has not gotten any better. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
So I don't know where Mr. Nuhu Ribadu is getting his own data from, statistics from, to have said that, look, things are getting better. I don't see anything that are getting better. But there's a part of the story yesterday. I don't know where the paper has captured it. That's the former governor of Zamfara State visiting the president. And they're suddenly becoming a spokesperson for bandits in Zamfara State, calling for negotiation with bandits. I think the president should please ignore him. That was the same way we had Seguni speaking for terrorists and bandits, calling for negotiations. And it was a bit nauseating yesterday, Sage, when he was now relating the activities of bandits to how, militants, Niger Delta militants got amnesty from the late Musa Yar'Adua as president. And I said, what is this guy with you? Yes, we may say that, look, these were people who picked up arms against the state. But the militancy in the Niger Delta did not see a situation where people were killed needlessly. Yes, it was a form of economic sabotage. And because we were losing revenue, the government had to negotiate with them, to listen to them, and somehow created amnesty and integrated them into the system. But look at what the bandits have been doing. Apart from going into economic sabotage, they've been killing people. Right. Kidnapping people, killing people for ransom. It's been chaos all through. And then for a former governor, suddenly working, because again, now he is speaking his own statement against the statement of the current governor of Zamfara State, who is calling for an all-out war against the bandits, who is saying the military should go after them and exterminate them. Now you have a former governor who has kept quiet, because I don't know the last time that Yerima has actually spoken against the bandits. I don't know, because if you review the papers now for how many years, I can't remember or recollect when last he spoke against the activities of bandits. And then suddenly we have new service chiefs, we have a new governor in Zamfara who is calling for an all-out war against the bandits, and then the former governor is jumping up and down, calling for negotiations with them. That we should be careful with the way some of these people, and I think the DSS should put an eye on him. Why he has suddenly become the spokesperson for the bandits at this time. So again, we wish the new service chiefs well. We hope that they will be able to deliver the goods. We hope that they will be able to secure Nigeria. But I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should ignore people like Yerima and focus on securing Nigeria and going after these criminals, punishing them and bringing them to boots.
Thank you very much, FUHAD. You can get more information on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. If you would like to participate but you don't have your radio on you, if you have access to the internet, you can definitely still join us. Just go on to our streaming platforms, Facebook and YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM, and you can definitely be a part of today's conversation. Or just go to Radio Garden and search Mainland 98.3 FM, and you could definitely listen to Trends in the Papers here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Moving forward with our headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper, CBN intervenes as more POS operators implement rate hike. Now, Central Bank of Nigeria has said it will intervene to resolve issues around the new charges adopted by point-of-sale operators in Nigeria. Already, point of sale agents are meeting with stakeholders across the country to agree on changes in transaction charges for POS services. Now, the National Public Relations Officer, Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, Oluwasegun Elegbede, has explained that every state might not adopt Lagos rates, but they will tailor theirs to the prevailing peculiarities in their state. As you know, the Amban Lagos chapter leader, Stephen Adeoye, he has already declared on television. He had an interview recently and gave the prices for the new rates. I don't know if time will permit us to take the prices for the new rates, but when you pick a copy of the Punch, you could definitely check it out. So FUHAD, POS operators have started to adjust their charges to reflect the economic realities of the country. There has been a significant increment, and they're saying other states are going to follow suit. That's the Lagos State chapter is saying other states will follow suit. Now the national PRO, Stephen Elegbede, is saying that yes, they might follow Lagos footprint, but the charges might not be the same. So each state would increase based on the peculiarities of the particular state. So it might be higher in the north, it might be lesser in the south, it might be higher in the east. That really doesn't matter, but they would adjust it based on how severe the economic situation is in that part of the state. Is this something surprising? Isn't this something that we should have seen coming, as many organizations, whether in the formal or informal sector, are starting to make adjustments so that they don't suffer too much loss in their business because of the many policies that has been implemented so far by this administration?
Well, I think the POS operators are Nigerians, and they go to the same market that other Nigerians go to. There are also a lot of them, especially in the rural areas, in the largely unbanked areas, also run their operations on generators because they have to charge these POS machines.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So they are also buying fuel at over 500 naira per liter, depending on where they are located. And the idea of staggered charges, I think, is already in operations because we go to some other parts of the country. For example, in Lagos, I'm sure if you want to withdraw like maybe 5,000 or 10,000, probably pay in charge of 100 naira. But I'm sure in other parts of in the north and some other far-flung areas of the country, probably going to pay more because most of the POS operators will tell you. For example, there are states where you have POS operators operating in some local areas where they have to journey 2-3 hours to be able to have access to cash. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because the nearest bank, a lot of people think, the problem is that Nigerians think that Nigeria ends in Lagos, starts and ends in Lagos. There are, I can tell you that there are areas in Nigeria where the whole senatorial district does not have a single bank. I'm not talking of the government too. You know that a proper senatorial district has about 7 or 6 local governments under it. And I know there are senatorial districts in Nigeria where you may not find a single bank. So if you have a POS operator operating in that kind of area, you probably have to journey 2-3 hours to get to the nearest bank to be able to have access to cash and all of that. So the cost of operations naturally means they have to begin to look at their charges. So I really don't see this as any news. It was bound to happen. And like you rightly pointed out, it's not going to end with the POS operators. Other business owners too would have to begin to adjust their price, to meet up with the peculiarities of Nigeria at this time. So when we talk about these current policies inflicting pain and poverty on Nigerians, this is an example. Because it now means that people who rely on POS operators for their daily cash transactions will have to pay more. So those are going to be the impact of these economic policies of this new government. I don't know how the CBN wants to intervene.
Yeah, I really don't know.
I think this is just making a statement for the sake of making statements. How they want to intervene, I don't know. Is it that they're going to pay the POS operators more, or be a part of the charges that people would have to pay for their transactions, or what? I think that this is bound to happen, and then.
I'm just saying, all the CBN said was we're very much aware and we're working towards resolving the issue. End of quote.
They are not going to resolve anything. It's just, like I said, it's just making statement for making statement, for the sake of making statement.
All right.
Institutions make statements like this, and that look, Kamala has some cocon. Let's just say something. It's just the reality of this. Okay, what are they going to do?
It's not listed. They just said we're working towards resolving the issue. That's all.
Maybe we can begin to project. Like, okay, maybe they are going to So when you withdraw, and instead of you paying 200 naira, you pay 100, they help you to pay the 100 naira.
As
what
subsidized POS transaction.
So they subsidize POS operation.
I don't know about that. I don't see that happening.
Don't let us waste our time. That's why when institutions make statements that it is even better for you to just keep quiet, don't even say anything, than to come and irritate and insult the sensibilities of the people. But it is what it is. Nigerians should be prepared for these things. It's not going to end, like I said, it will not end with the POS operators. Other businesses will have to adjust accordingly.
Right. Well, page 15 of the Punch newspaper is where you find details of this particular headline. I'm still on page 15. The headline reads, Electric Vehicle, NNPCL plans filling stations charging ports. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has announced plans to install charging ports across its filling stations nationwide to charge electric vehicles as part of moves to reduce carbon emission. It also said the company would be investing in electric vehicles to meet local demand, as the NNPCL was currently discussing with an indigenous firm involved in this. Now, the managing director, NNPC New Energy Limited, it's a subsidiary of NNPCL, by the way. They're saying that we're currently discussing with a company in Maduguri that is into renewable and electric vehicles. It is a Nigeria startup. There are two phases: talk to those who are responsible for building the electric vehicles, and then the next phase will be to know how to provide access to charging port for electric vehicles. And we have NNPC retail stations scattered across Nigeria, and we're having discussions on how to install the charging ports in the stations to serve electric vehicles. FUHAD, this is not a plan that is should I say inachievable, because I know that in Lagos State we have few electric buses that are somewhat functional at the moment, but they want this to be like a nationwide thing. And NNPC Energy Limited, a subsidiary of NNPCL, they've started working towards it, and they said their plan is in two phases for now. First, have a conversation with an indigenous company that specializes in the building of electric vehicles, and then the other phase will be to have charging ports installed in NNPC stations scattered across the state, so that you can go and charge your vehicles, the same way you'd go and buy a fuel. For those who use fuel powered cars, you go and charge your vehicles there. Obviously it will be for a cost. So FUHAD, I'll just ask you how actionable you think this is this a plan that you think we should throw our weight behind? Do you think that we're ready for that kind of commitment, or what exactly are your reservations about this plan whatsoever in its entirety, if you have any?
You see, when you have institutions of government completely confused about a situation and don't know exactly what to do about a very bad situation, you get statements like this from them. And what is the interpretation of a statement like this? Let us just tell them that we are doing something. Actually, we are not doing anything. They didn't start with this charging ports and all of that. The initial idea was that they are going to be converting vehicles to gas.
Yes, gas.
And that was announced. When was that announced? I think it was announced almost 2 years ago. And up till now, nothing has happened. It was the same NNPCL that announced the idea of having vehicles converted to gas use and all of that. I think there was a name they gave to it, and all of that. I can't remember the name now. Now we are on electric vehicles. And I ask you, how much will these vehicles cost? Because the average electric vehicle I know does not come cheap. The Teslas of this world and all of that. If you go and find out, vehicles that run on electricity don't come cheap.
Expensive.
So this is not even a solution to pushing the effect of subsidy removal. And you begin to, have you noticed,
yes.
Have you actually noticed, that since the removal of subsidy, or even before the removal of subsidy, we have not gotten statements from the government or its affiliate institutions on the commitment to fix our refineries and make them work. There's a way you don't, even if I don't take effect of this subsidy. So what the application of sizable.
So far, working committee of state Aminu Tambuwal for the position of Senate Minority Leader of the 10th Senate. FUHAD, the issues that have emanated from the selection of those who would occupy principal positions has even deepened. There's the APC are battling with theirs, the minority party, they're also battling with theirs. In fact, they recently slammed the APC for allegedly meddling in the selection process of the minority leader. As you know, opposition for Tambuwal's aspiration has heightened. There are a lot of loyalists who are set to be backed by former River State Governor Nyesom Wike, and he's throwing his weight behind Senator Agom Jarigbe for the Senate minority position. So, FUHAD, do you think that the difficulty for the minority caucus to provide a consensus candidate might push them further down the losing end? Do you think that this might be the time for them to work together if they really want their desires to be achieved? Or what do you think might be the implication of this, loggerhead that continues to happen between the senators that constitute both the minority caucus and the majority caucus?
Well, he said, in the issue of democracy in Nigeria, I think this is the most disorganized opposition that we've ever had. And I have my reasons for saying that. In the history of democracy, I'm even going to take it from the first, second, third republic to the fourth republic that we are now in. This is the most disorganized opposition that we've ever had. And unfortunately, they are so disorganized to the point that they don't even understand that they are dealing with a ruling party that now has a president that understands politics like the back of his hand. Their level of how disorganized they were in the last 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari was still a bit excusable, because they were dealing with a president who was not really ready to play politics, or who didn't even understand how to play the politics. But now they are dealing with a generalismo when it comes to political game and calculation. And then you have this disorganized. Hey, as it is, let me predict what will happen. The Senate will convert for plenary. I'm sure they are going to be resuming today or
yes.
so.
Today.
Yeah, today. And what will happen, because again, I think we discussed this on Political Roundtable on Sunday, is that already the APC is not even limiting itself to majority position, because somehow the APC has been able to resolve its own issues.
Yes.
The Senate majority leader has been zone, I think, of Femi Bamidele from Ekiti State, and deputy majority leader is going to Aliyu Dume from Borno State. But the APC is not even leaving itself at that. After succeeding with choosing principal office holders, Senate President, Deputy Senate President, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, they are even delving into who becomes minority leader of the Senate and the lower chamber. And, the crack before the presidential election is still there. You have the Atiku faction, you have the Wike faction, of the infamous G5. So what you now have is that, look, you have the Atiku faction supporting the former governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambawa, who they think is their loyalist. Whereas the Wike faction,
supporting
who according to reports are working with the APC to get in a more friendly minority leadership. You can see now, a more friendly minority leadership.
Right.
Is rooting for the senator from Cross River State, Jarigbe.
Yes.
Senator Jarigbe. And what would happen is, because this one is not going to be put to general election in the House floor. These are decisions that are supposed to be taken at the level of the caucuses. And then the list is transmitted to the Senate President, who reads it out. If we are going to follow the antecedents of the Senate, you know what will happen? The Senate President will read out the name he prefers as the Senate leadership position. The opposition parties, if they are not satisfied, will say they walk out and nothing will happen. So don't be surprised that even if the PDP transmits the name of Tambawa, a faction will transmit the name of Senator Jarigbe, and Akpabio will read that one he prefers. The dissatisfied honorables and senators will say they walk out and nothing will happen. So again, we have a disorganized opposition, and the ruling party is taking serious advantage of that.
Well, page 2 of the Punch newspaper is where you get more details of this information. Hopefully, when the plenary resumes and we have information about what happens there, I believe it will be reported in the papers by
I'm making
tomorrow.
a prediction. Just take note of what I've said.
FUHAD, I don't doubt you. I don't at all doubt you. I can understand, definitely. That's why I asked the question that this refusal to work together, this refusal to come up with a consensus, what will be the implication for them? And just like you have said, this crack would most definitely be exploited by people who know how to play the game of politics. They have a history of being able to exploit cracks like this one, and it's so unfortunate that the minority caucus are allowing this to linger for so long. Page 2 of the Punch newspaper, you find more details. We're moving now to the last headline that we have here on the front page of the Punch, at least the one we would review. UTME top scorer's dad declares daughter innocent. Innocent demands probe. Now, Mr. Romanus Ejikeme, the father of Ejikeme Mesoma, who the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board accused of manipulating her unified tertiary matriculation examination result, has defended the daughter, saying she's innocent of the allegation against her. Now, in a statement by the spokesperson, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, JAMB has said that they found the case of Umesoma particularly pathetic, as she has allegedly hoodwinked unsuspecting members of the public.